It really does bother me. I put it down to American children, but it is pronounced Uranus, named after the Greek god of the sky. It is strange that Uranus is the only planet named after a Greek god rather than a Roman equivalent. Its name really should be Caelus. To follow the Roman tradition, it should be called Caelus, and the names of the outer planets are actually following a pattern. Mercury was named after Hermes, the messenger, because of its quick movement across the sky. Venus was named after Aphrodite because of its bright brilliance and beauty, so they named it after the goddess of love. Unfortunately, its surface is anything but love. Mars was named after the god of war because of its blood-red colour. Jupiter, Zeus, the king of the gods, also the father of Mars, Ares, naturally for its massive size. And Saturn was the father of Jupiter, Kronos. And Uranus was the father of Saturn, Caelus. And obviously Neptune and Pluto are named after Poseidon and Hades, the brothers of Zeus. Unfortunately, you get the regular article from amateur journalists at BuzzFeed saying there's a dark spot in Uranus. Well, are you 6 years old? Although they're from BuzzFeed, so they probably are. When it was discovered by William Herschel, and it was the first planet to be discovered in modern time, he was the one that was allowed to name it. And considering he was the citizen of the crown that he was, he decided to name it after King George III. The Georgian Sidus, or just the Georgian Star. King George loved the name, but the rest of the world didn't. So they quickly came up with alternative names. I do low-key wish that he had just been a bit more upfront and just called it King George, because it would shift the conversation about that planet from one to avoid to one that would actually make it interesting. Think about it. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, King George and Neptune. All of a sudden, people will be interested on what makes that planet so different, because it is a very interesting planet with a very interesting story to tell. For example, the planet Uranus, and its 5 moons for that matter, they all orbit the sun on a 90-degree axis. What does that mean? It means the seasons on those bodies are drastically different to the ones we experience. The body's north and south poles will spend up to 40 years in direct sunlight, and another 40 years in total darkness because they are facing directly towards the sun, or further away. So in many ways, the planet rolls around the sun like a barrel. And I've always been curious, how did it get like that? What on earth happened to that planet? What chaotic collision did it have in its early life that made it tip over on its side like that? It must have been something huge. It must have had some kind of collision with an Earth-sized object, or even bigger. And then there's the subject of its moon. We probably know more about the moons of Jupiter and Saturn than we do of anything around Uranus or Neptune combined, because we've been back to those 2 planets, but we have yet to visit Uranus or Neptune again. And I keep on saying, please, NASA, go back to the ice giant. We haven't visited Uranus or Neptune since Voyager in the 1980s. It's time to go back, don't you agree? The 2 most distant bodies in the solar system, we know nothing about them. For example, there's evidence of water underneath 3 of 4 of Jupiter's largest moons. And we've done the same for one of Saturn's moons. And we successfully landed on Saturn's moon Titan. I want to know if any of Uranus's moons have any secrets. Do the moons of Uranus have any strange geologic activity? We're not going to know for a very long time. But there you have it. Uranus.